Hi everybody, we are going to be talking about the blood moons for our second part of me doing the end time prophecy videos. I actually am doing this for the second time. I recorded myself last night with the videos, but I don't think that I was clear enough, and so I'm going to be doing this again. So I'm going to go ahead and apologize if Carter, my baby, is in the background making some noise, because being a mom of a toddler, we have to do this when we can fit this in. So let's go ahead and jump in. I will say that today is September 25th, 2014. That is going to be important as I'm going through the study, but I just wanted to make sure also for you guys who are watching that you know the date that I am actually videoing this, and you know, moving forward, regardless of when you're actually watching it, I'm videoing it on September 25th, 2014. So I'm going to go ahead and pull you in, and we're going to get started. Okay, let's do an overview of the last class, and we're going to go through this pretty quickly, and, you know, excuse me, I'm trying to make sure that this is going to all be fitting in correctly. Okay, so we're going to do the overview of the last class. God says that we should encourage each other with these words. Jesus calls us hypocrites if we don't pay attention to the signs that God is giving us. End time meaning, and I explained this in the last class, that we are not talking about a zombie apocalypse, we're not talking about the world blowing up, nothing like that, but we are talking about a new age. The age of perfection is how it is described. And excuse me while I'm trying to adjust this, making sure that you guys can see this well enough. Okay, so end time meaning, yeah, it's going to be a new age, just as we had the age of law during the Old Testament for Moses' time period, and then we are currently living in the age of grace, or the church age, meaning that after Jesus died and rose again and then ascended to heaven, we started with a new age, which is the church age. And now going forward, end time prophecy, end time meanings, we're talking about a new age, the age of perfection. So I wanted to, we didn't really go over this last time, but these last 2 points here I wanted to put into this class, because I don't know if any of you have experienced this, but I have personally experienced it in the past, and even most recently up until this past week, where people, you know, want to say that we're crazy for studying this. They don't understand why we're doing this. You know, and I just wanted to give some Bible verses there to make sure that we know that we're on the right track. In Colossians it says, "Let no man therefore judge you in meat or in drink, or in respect of a holy day, or of the new moon, or of the Sabbath days." 2 Peter says, "Knowing this first, that there shall come in the last days scoffers, walking in their own lust, and saying, Where is this promise of his coming? For since the fathers fell asleep, all things continue as they were from the beginning of creation." So, yes, a lot of people have thought that, you know, it was their time frame, you know, throughout history, people thought it was during their lifespan that Jesus was going to come again. And, you know, I think that God always wants us to be prepared and to think that it could happen in any moment, and that's exactly what Scripture says. It could happen in the twinkling of an eye. However, we are the generation that is seeing all of the prophecies that are leading up to the second coming. We are seeing all of those being fulfilled. Not every generation has had that. In fact, it really didn't start until the 1940s when Israel became a nation, and that is really what kind of catapulted us into end time prophecies being fulfilled. So while a lot of people have thought throughout the centuries that it could happen at any moment, being you know, through the scriptures and being biblical about it, it's really this generation that is seeing all of the prophecies being fulfilled. So if anybody wants to call you crazy, if they, you know, want to say you shouldn't worry about studying this, my response to that is, you know, I tell them, do not discredit what you don't understand. Just because you don't understand this doesn't mean that it's crazy. Why don't you let me explain it to you? You know, so maybe approach it at that angle. Okay, so we always want to start with scripture. We're talking about the blood moons this week, and we always want to begin with scripture because the Bible is where we want to base everything off of. There's a lot of information out there that will help us understand what these scriptures mean, but it always goes back to what Jesus and God said specifically. So I'm going to explain these first two scriptures, and then I'm going to explain this in just a moment. So Acts and Joel, they kind of go hand in hand, but it will just give you an idea that the blood moons were talked about specifically in two different parts of the Bible leading up to end time prophecy and leading up to the second coming. So Acts 2:20, the sun shall be turned into darkness and the moon to blood before the day of the Lord comes, the great and magnificent day. Joel 2:31, the sun shall be turned to darkness and the moon to blood before the great and awesome day of the Lord comes. So these two scriptures are what we're seeing here, and both in the past and current day. And then Revelation 6:12 through 14, I want to make it very clear that the blood moons that we have seen in the past and that we're currently seeing for 2014 and 2015, it is not the Revelation blood moon that is talked about here. I know this can get a little confusing, and I'm going to try to make it, you know, as clear as I can, but Revelation 6:12 through 14 is specifically talking about during the tribulation, the blood moons that are going to happen during the tribulation. Whereas Acts and Joel are talking about the blood moons that are signs that the hour of the second coming is near. Revelation is talking about during the tribulation, after the rapture. But I'll go ahead and read it so that you can see that God uses blood moons throughout history, in the past, current day, and in the future to communicate to us. So during the tribulation, this is when this is going to happen. It says, when he opened the sixth seal, I looked, and behold, there was a great earthquake, and the sun became black as sackcloth, the full moon became like blood, and the stars of the sky fell to the earth as the fig tree sheds its winter fruit when shaken by a gale. The sky vanished like a scroll that is being rolled up, and every mountain and island was removed from its place. Here is a picture of what the blood moons look like for 2014 and 2015. And, you know, I'm going to actually stop for a second and talk to you guys directly for just a moment. Blood moons and what I'm explaining today is kind of new to me. So while I have been trying to learn about it and study it for, you know, the past year, it's still relatively new to me. So I want to go ahead and apologize if I don't say the Jewish terms 100% correctly, or if maybe I seem a little bit scattered. You know, I understand it within myself. I understand it for me, but to try to communicate it to somebody else when it's new information to me is sometimes a little hard. And so if you hear me pause or, you know, trying to get my thoughts together, it's just because I'm trying to make sure that I am explaining it in the best way possible. This is a lot of information, So I just wanted to go ahead and apologize beforehand if my speech seems slurred or something like that, as I'm trying to get my thoughts together for this, to make sure that I'm explaining it very accurately and very well. You know, I said in my last videos that I always pray that, Lord, don't let me be deceived and don't let me accidentally deceive others. And I think a lot of times when we, you know, don't 100% understand something or understand the background knowledge of it, that's where, you know, confusion can come from. And I'm just trying very, very hard to make sure that I give this to you and the best way possible. This is going to be for the most of you, this is going to be a lot of new information for you, as it was for me, and it could be very confusing, but as I said in my last video, let me give this information to you, and then you do your homework on what you don't understand. You do your backup homework and look into the things that I'm talking about. So we'll go ahead and get this started for the blood moons. Okay, so we have, in 2014, we have 2 blood moons. We had one on April 15th of this year, and then we're going to have one in just a few days on October 8th. And then from this point forward is 2015. So on March 20th, 2015, we're going to have a total solar eclipse, and that's where, as the scripture said, the sun turns black as sackcloth. And then again, we have another blood moon on April 4th of 2015. We have a partial solar eclipse on September 13th, and then on September 28th, we have the last blood moon. In a series like this, when you have 4 blood moons back to back, it's called a tetrad. And what is so interesting, well, actually, there's a lot of interesting facts about this tetrad, but what I find really fascinating is that each of these blood moons are going to be visible to the world at or different parts of the world each time. So for this first blood moon, you know, if you lived on my street, you would think that I was a crazy person because I stood out in the middle of my street at 3 o'clock in the morning trying to see this blood moon. It should have been visible to my part of the world. I live in New Jersey, but unfortunately there were a lot of clouds that night and I could not see it, which was, you know, I was really bummed about that because I had been waiting for it. But a lot of my friends and family saw it in North America. I have people scattered all around the country. You are probably watching this if you had shared your blood moon information with me back then I appreciate that. So anyways, for October, this coming up October, it is said that the Pacific region will be able to see this blood moon. Excuse me, I'm going to take a drink real fast. Excuse me, I've been getting over a cold, so I might have to keep my throat a little bit more wet than typically when I'm doing this. So, okay, so the Pacific region will be able to see this. The western seaboard of the United States should be able to see it, as well as a lot of the islands in the Pacific Ocean, Hawaii specifically. Okay, so I apologize. I did not look up what part of the world should be visible for this blood moon. And, you know, you can find that information. I'm just sorry, I didn't get that before I started filming this. But the information is there. So let's talk about this last blood moon. The last blood moon of the tetrad for 2014 and 2015 is going to be a supermoon. I'm sure that you have seen a supermoon before. They're huge, they're fascinating. It almost looks like something out of a sci-fi movie. It's really, really big. This last blood moon is going to be, this one here, is going to be a supermoon, blood moon, right over the city of Jerusalem. Pretty incredible. Let's talk about the science behind the blood moons. Space.com says lunar eclipses occur when Earth's shadow blocks the sunlight, which otherwise reflects off the moon. The red moon is possible because while the moon is in total shadow, some light from the sun passes through Earth's atmosphere and is bent towards the moon. While other colors in the spectrum are blocked and scattered by Earth's atmosphere, red light tends to make it through easier. So we are going to find a scientific reason why this moon is turning blood red. Obviously, the reason is here. Don't let that fool you, and don't dismiss this as just being, oh, this, science says it's this. Think about who created science. Who created everything? God. God created everything, and he is giving us this blood moon, and there's going to be a scientific reason about it, but it still is God communicating to us. So just because we can prove it through science, don't let that fool you. It's all mathematical. God is very, very mathematical. He placed all of the stars, the sun, the moon, everything in the sky. And the reason why we can know when these blood moons are going to happen is because it is mathematical. NASA is able to look into history and into the future within 5,000 years to see what's going to be in our skies. And this is how we know the exact dates of what is going to be in our skies. The blood moons aren't the only things that we know, but right now that's what we're talking about. So that is how we know when it's going to be. Okay, so on the little picture here, you can see that each of the blood moons lands on a Jewish feast holiday. Now, again, I am kind of new into this information. I grew up Protestant. I did not grow up Jewish. I don't have any Jewish background. So a lot of this is a little, or at least it was a little foreign to me. And now that I'm studying it, I'm getting a better understanding and a better picture of all of this information and all of the Jewish feast holidays. And if you are like me and you didn't know anything about the Jewish background, this might be a little overwhelming to you, but please try to, not let it really overwhelm you or go over your head. And if you need to, watch this video a couple times to make sure that you're getting all of the information, then do so, please. Or look into the information more on your own, please do, because this is a lot of information to go over in a short, 1 hour video. So let's go ahead and read this, paragraph here. Mike Taylor is an author on a website, raptureready.com, that I get a lot of my information from. They have really good sources and they have really accurate information. So let me read this to you. God